Well, he's inside?
Okay.
We know he's in there. Where is he hiding?
There's no Jorge here. It's just me and my baby sleeping.
Yeah, sure.
Well, whatever you say, just the baby. Step aside, man. We're coming in to check the bedrooms.
Please wait. My husband's in the army. He's overseas right now. You have the wrong house.
Army, huh? That's a cute story. I've heard every excuse.
Agent Miller had no idea that he had just kicked in the wrong door. In the next few minutes, his team would shatter the peace of a military household. They would trigger a legal battle that would cost the federal government a fortune. The terrified woman standing in the hallway wasn't protecting a criminal. She was the wife of a highly decorated U.S. Army sergeant, and that husband wasn't just overseas. He was currently serving a combat tour in Afghanistan. He was protected by the highest levels of federal law. When he returned to find his family traumatized and his property destroyed, he didn't just file a complaint. He declared war in federal court, and the agent's own body cameras were capturing every second of the mistake. Before I continue, let me ask you, have you ever been treated unfairly by someone in power? Drop your answer in the comments. To understand how bad this mistake was, we have to look at who actually lived at this house. Linda Rodriguez was a mother of 2 young children. Her husband, Sergeant Rodriguez, was thousands of miles away. He had been in the army for 10 years. He was a brave soldier. He was currently leading a team in Afghanistan. While he fought for his country, Linda fought to keep things normal at home. She was the only parent there. Her house was supposed to be safe. It was their sanctuary. But there is something else you need to know. Soldiers like Sergeant Rodriguez have special rights. There is a law called the Service Members Civil Relief Act. This law protects soldiers while they are away at war. It stops people from harassing their families. It stops banks from taking their homes. It is meant to give soldiers peace of mind. They need to focus on their mission, not worry about their wives and kids. Agent Miller should have known this, but he didn't check. On this night, Linda wasn't a suspect. She wasn't hiding anyone. She was just a military spouse trying to get a few hours of sleep before getting her kids to school. She was doing her job at home while her husband did his job abroad. Now let's talk about the men outside the door. The team was led by Agent Miller. They worked for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. They had a job to do. They were looking for a man named Jorge. Jorge was wanted for breaking the law. That part is fine. Police need to catch bad guys. But here is the problem. Agent Miller was lazy. He was using a database that was years old. He had an address for Jorge, but he never checked if it was still correct. He didn't drive by the house earlier that week. He didn't check who paid the electric bill. If he had, he would have seen the name Rodriguez, not Jorge. He would have seen the military license plates on the car in the driveway. He would have seen the American flag on the porch. But Agent Miller didn't look. He just assumed he was right. This wasn't the first time his team acted fast without thinking. They had a reputation. They liked to kick doors first and ask questions later. They felt powerful. They had guns and badges. They thought they could do whatever they wanted. They called it being tough on crime. But really, it was just being sloppy. They were so convinced they were right, they didn't bother to verify the address. They were about to make a huge mess. Type lazy in the comments if you think police should check their facts before raiding a house. It was 4:00 a.m. on a Tuesday. The neighborhood was silent. Most people were deep asleep. Inside the Rodriguez home, everything was calm. The children were tucked in bed. Linda was sleeping soundly. Outside, the scene was very different. 7 agents gathered on the front lawn. They wore heavy armor. They held large rifles. They looked like they were going to war. They didn't ring the doorbell. They didn't knock politely. They wanted to use the element of surprise. At 4:05 a.m., the silence broke. Agents pounded on the front door. They screamed, "Police, open up!" The noise was deafening. Inside, Linda woke up in terror. Her heart pounded in her chest. She was confused. She thought robbers were breaking in. She didn't know it was the government. She ran to the hallway in her pajamas. She was scared for her life. She was scared for her kids. If stories about protecting your home matter to you, hit subscribe right now. We cover cases like this every week. Linda reached the door. She hoped to clear up a misunderstanding. She thought if she just talked to them, they would leave. But the agents didn't want to talk. They saw her as an obstacle. That's when everything changed. Linda opened the door just a crack. She saw the guns and gasped. "Where is Jorge?" Agent Miller shouted. "I don't know a Jorge," Linda said. Her voice shook. "This is the Rodriguez house." "Liar," another agent yelled. They pushed the door open hard. It hit Linda in the shoulder. She stumbled back. "You can't come in," she cried. "My kids are sleeping." Federal agents, Miller said. We go where we want. They stormed into the hallway. Their heavy boots muddied the floor. They pointed guns at Linda. She put her hands up. She pointed to a photo on the wall. It showed Sergeant Rodriguez in his uniform. Look, she begged. My husband is a soldier. We are a military family. Miller looked at the photo. He laughed. Anyone can buy a uniform, he said. Stop stalling. 10 minutes later, the house was chaos. The agents went room to room. They woke up the children. The kids started screaming. They saw men with guns. They didn't understand what was happening. One agent ripped the covers off the 6-year-old. Get up, he yelled. The child began to cry hysterically. Linda tried to run to them. Stay put, an agent ordered. He blocked her path with his rifle. My babies are crying, Linda sobbed. Let me hold them, they are terrified. Sit down, Miller commanded, unless you want to go to jail for getting in the way. It was cruel, it was unnecessary. The agents opened drawers and dumped them out onto the floor. They flipped over mattresses in the guest room. They were looking for a grown man named Jorge. He clearly wasn't under the bed, but they kept tearing the house apart. They pulled clothes out of the closet. They smashed a family picture frame on the floor. They stepped on toys with their muddy boots. Linda watched helplessly. She felt violated. She felt small. These men were bullies. They were supposed to protect people. Instead, they were terrorizing a mother and her children in the middle of the night. But wait, there's more to this. The agents weren't just being mean. They were ignoring the law. They didn't show a warrant. They didn't have permission. They just used force. Type shame in the comments if you think they went too far. What Linda didn't know was that a neighbor was watching through a window, and the agents' own cameras were recording everything. After 20 minutes, the agents finally stopped. They had checked the basement. They had checked the attic. They had checked the closets. There was no Jorge. There were no drugs. There were no weapons. There was just a terrified mom and 2 crying kids. The house was a mess. Clothes were everywhere. Furniture was moved. Agent Miller walked back to the living room. He didn't look sorry. He looked annoyed. He must have moved, Miller muttered. He didn't apologize to Linda. He didn't offer to fix the broken lamp. He just signaled his team to leave. You should have opened the door faster, he said to Linda. Next time, don't make us wait. Then they walked out. They left Linda shivering in her destroyed home. She locked the door and ran to her children. She hugged them tight until they stopped crying. Then she picked up the phone. She called her husband. It was daytime in Afghanistan. Sergeant Rodriguez answered. He heard his wife crying. He heard the fear in her voice. She told him everything. She told him about the guns. She told him about the threats. She told him how they mocked his service. Sergeant Rodriguez felt a rage he had never felt before. He was fighting a war overseas, risking his life every single day. He was protecting his country, but back home, his country was attacking his family. He felt helpless being so far away. But then, he remembered his rights. He remembered the briefings he got before deployment. He went straight to his commander. He explained the situation. His commander was livid. They went to the Military Legal Assistance Office, the JAG Corps. He told them what ICE did. The military lawyers were furious. You do not touch a soldier's family. You do not raid their home without a very good reason. And you definitely do not mock the U.S. Army. The JAG officers immediately contacted their counterparts in the federal government. They demanded answers. Agent Miller thought he had just inconvenienced a civilian. He thought Linda was just a nobody who would stay quiet. He was wrong. He had actually just declared war on the U.S. Army legal system. By the next morning, paperwork was being filed. The military helped Linda document the damage. They took photos of the bruises on her arm. They took photos of the broken door. They saved the text messages. Linda wasn't just a victim anymore. She was a witness, and she had the most powerful lawyers in the world on her side. Agent Miller was about to learn a very expensive lesson, but by now, he was already starting to understand how badly he'd miscalculated. A few months later, the lawsuit hit Agent Miller's desk. It wasn't a small complaint. It was a federal lawsuit. The family sued for something called the Federal Tort Claims Act. They said the agents violated their rights. They said the search was illegal. They said the agents caused emotional distress. The government tried to fight back. They always do. Their lawyers used a defense called qualified immunity. This is a special rule. It usually protects agents from being sued, even when they Make mistakes, they said. The agents were just doing their job. It was an honest mistake. They tried to get the judge to throw the case out. But then the evidence came out. The lawyers played the body camera footage for the court. It showed everything. It showed the dark street. It showed the agents stacking up. It showed the door bursting open. It showed Linda begging in her pajamas. It showed her pointing to the military photo on the wall. It showed Agent Miller laughing at her and saying it was a fake. It contradicted the police report completely. In his official report, Miller wrote that the occupant was hostile and uncooperative, but the video showed Linda was scared, crying, and polite. The report said they had probable cause and visual confirmation, but the facts showed they had bad data from a utility bill 3 years old. The judge watched the video in silence. He was not happy. He saw bullies, not heroes. He saw a violation of the Fourth Amendment. He denied the government's request to dismiss the case. He said the case would go to trial. This was a huge win. Usually these cases get thrown out, but the video saved the day. It proved Linda was telling the truth. The government lawyers started to panic. They realized they might lose. They realized how bad this would look to a jury. Imagine a jury watching a soldier's wife get terrorized while her husband is at war. No jury would like that. If you want to see bad agents get caught, hit that subscribe button. We bring you the truth every time. The government tried to bury the case, but the facts were too damning. The consequences were just beginning. Someone had been recording, and now the whole world was going to see. The story didn't stay in the courtroom. It leaked to the press. The headline was shocking: active duty soldiers' home raided by ICE. It exploded on the news. By noon, it was on every local channel. By dinner time, it was on national news. People were furious. It didn't matter what politics they had. Everyone agreed this was wrong. People who support the police were angry that the agents were lazy. People who worry about civil rights were angry about the excessive force. It was a rare moment where everyone was on the same side. Photos of the smashed door went viral. Photos of the crying children were shared thousands of times. Comments poured in. "He fights for our freedom while they violate his rights at home," one person wrote. "Fire them all," said another. The agency tried to calm things down. They released a statement. They said, "We are investigating the incident." But that wasn't enough. People wanted action. They wanted justice for the Rodriguez family. This story was shared millions of times. Share this video if you think others should see what happened. The public pressure was mounting. The agency looked bad. The government looked bad. But the real hammer was about to drop in the courtroom. The case went to a final decision. The judge looked at all the evidence. He looked at the trauma caused to the children. One child was now afraid of loud noises. The other child wouldn't sleep alone. He looked at the disrespect shown to a soldier's family. He decided to send a message. He didn't just award a few $1,000s for a broken door. He awarded millions. Wait until you hear the final number. It was historic. The judge ordered the government to pay the amount, $10.2 million. That is a massive number. Let me break it down for you. A small part was for the property damage. A bigger part was for the violation of the Constitution. But the biggest part was for the pain and suffering. The judge said the agents caused severe emotional distress. He wanted to make sure the agency felt this loss. He wanted them to change their ways. He wanted them to think twice before kicking down the next door. $10.2 million. It was one of the largest payouts ever for a raid of this nature. The check was signed by the taxpayers, which is sad, but the message was sent to the agency loud and clear. You cannot trample on people's rights. You cannot ignore the rules. Agent Miller's career was stained forever. The raid he thought was routine ended up costing more than he would earn in 10 lifetimes, but the story didn't end with money. After the verdict, the family spoke out. Sergeant Rodriguez was back home now. He stood next to his wife. He held her hand. He looked tired but proud. "We didn't do this for the money," he told the reporters. "We did it for respect." Linda spoke too. Her voice was stronger now. "My children are still scared," she said. "Every time there is a knock at the door, they jump. Money doesn't fix that, but this verdict helps us heal." She looked directly at the camera. "We fought so this doesn't happen to another family. We want agents to check their facts. We want them to treat people like humans." It was a powerful moment. They were just a normal family who stood up to a giant go. Vermont agency, and they won. They proved that no badge gives you the right to be a bully, but this case exposed something bigger. Sadly, wrong door raids happen too often. Every year, innocent families are terrorized because police have bad addresses. Most people don't get millions of dollars. Most people get nothing. This case was different because the victim was a soldier. But every home should be safe. Agencies need to verify addresses before they breach. They need to stop being lazy. Justice was served here, but how many other families are left with broken doors and zero justice? So let me ask you, should agents be personally responsible for these mistakes? Should they pay out of their own pockets? And how do we fix the warrant process so this stops happening? Because if we don't fix the verification rules, then we're just waiting for the next Agent Miller, the next innocent family, the next traumatic mistake. Comment below if you believe police need stricter rules for raids. If you think stories like this matter, hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep exposing these stories. We're going to keep demanding better. This isn't just about one bad agent or one brave family. It's about all of us and the safety of our homes. See you in the next one.